Hello and welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be looking at the Retrofreak console by Cybergadget. We're going to look at what you get in the box, we're going to look at some of the features of this device, and we're going to look at some gameplay footage. Let's get started. Okay, so here we have the contents of the box. Console itself, the Nes Adapter, the Retrofreak controller, and this is the controller adapter, which means you can use the original controllers. Now this is the premium edition of the console, which means I think it was $179.99, and the difference is that you get the controller adapter here, so I can sit and use the original Mega Drive, original NES, etc. controllers on here. Now if we look at the Retrofreak controller itself, you get this with the standard and premium editions. Now, this is quite a decent controller. As you'll see, it looks very similar to the SNES controller. Very similar button layout, it's just that you have the home and option buttons which you can use to access the menu in the games. It's an okay quality. Buttons slightly flimsy, shoulder buttons again are quite flimsy. Now you'll notice as well on the console you have 3 controller ports. Now what you can do here is you can use this main controller. This can control the home button, and then you can add an NES controller for player 1 using this, and if you were to buy another controller adapter you could add another controller into there, so you can play 2-player games and also use the original controller to control the menu. Now the NES adapter was a later release, I believe, and basically because you can play Famicom games, that doesn't work with the NES slot. So what you can do is plug this into there, and that goes into the port here. Now unfortunately that is very wobbly. That was wobbly from day one. It is not very pleasing. However, that's just something that if you're transferring it to SD card, you don't have to continually plug into there to play. There we are. And I'll also say, when it comes to the inserting of games like this, it's really straightforward. The Retron 5, I was aware, originally had, people called it the death grip. You would insert your game like that and then it would become stuck. I haven't had any problems with that with this. It's been very straightforward in and out, really easy. Now Cybergadget make no bones about the fact that this is Android emulation. So basically what you do is you insert your cartridge, it will come up on the menu saying would you like to install to SD card. It will then rip the ROM to the SD card. You then never have to insert that cartridge to play again. Now I think that's great if you're looking to preserve your video game collection, which is exactly the reason I have this. It also gives you an all-in-one solution, so you don't have to have all your hardware set up in one place. Now there is an addition to this called the gear converter. I ordered this from PlayAsia. It's a Cybergadget official product. That's the box there. I'll show you the device. Now basically I got this. You can play Sega Mark III and SG, which were the precursors to the Master System, but it also plays Game Gear games. I have quite a lot of Game Gear games in my collection. Now I can install my Game Gear games onto the SD card. You are playing it on a large screen, but actually with the filters that are present you can render it so that it looks really nice. You're not looking at a really pixelated mess. This was from PlayAsia. I think it was £60 roughly, including the import tax. If you've got the Mega SG and what have you, it's worth it. I think it's a bit overpriced, but very good way of installing your Game Gear cartridges. And with the Master System you can actually use the original power base converter. Now, this goes into the back slot here. It is not very pleasant to look at, unfortunately, but it does mean that you can rip your cartridges to the system. So that's for the original Master System, that works just fine. Okay, so let's have a look at the actual supported systems here. It says 12 retro game systems. Now that's a bit of a grey area because you have the Mega Drive and the Genesis, for example. They're both the same system, but basically what it means is it's region free. It will play both NTSC and PAL. You also, of course, get the SG3 Game Gear, for example, on this, so you do get extra systems. But we'll have a quick run through what's supported. NES, Famicom, Super Nintendo, Super Famicom, Genesis, Mega Drive, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, TurboGrafx 16, PC Engine, and the PC Engine Super Graphics. So let's have a look at some of the gameplay footage of this device and some of the features. Okay, so I'm going to show you now what to expect when you load up the Retrofreak, how to actually install a game. In this case, I'm going to put Sega Mega Drive Sonic the Hedgehog onto the SD card. I'm going to show you some of the effects, so the filters and the scan lines, and a bit of gameplay. So here we are. I'm going to install Sonic the Hedgehog. You simply put that into the rear slot. It will then detect the cartridge. Do you wish to install this game to the micro SD card? After installing, you can play without the cartridge. Yes, please. Simple as that. There we are, and then as soon as it says not loading anymore, I'm going to actually remove the Sonic cartridge. So there's now no cartridge in the system. And as you can see, if I go over to the right hand side, my micro SD card has all my game saves, installed games, etc. And there you can see below the actual game saves, so Famicom on NES. These are all the games I have installed there. One of the great things about this is the add-on. You can do the Game Gear Sega Mark III, and that was a great way of being able to load those. It was an expensive way of doing it, but it's a great way of it's a great solution for preserving these games, I find. I'll quickly actually show you the controllers. Some of these might be mapped to have the actual original controllers. In this case, I'm just using the Retrofreak standard controller, so I don't have to chop and change between. But I'll just show you the controller menu. So controller to mapping, to player mapping, there you are, player 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you can pick any controller. In this case, it's the Retrofreak standard controller. That's for the Genesis. And you can go through it all here. Game Boy, PC Engine, NES, Famicom, SNES, etc. And you can pick the specific controller you want to assign to that. So when you plug in your controller into that little add-on box, it's quite straightforward to play. Now you can set up your scan lines here. I'm actually going to load it into the game. I'm going to load up the game first and then show you the scan lines because it's easier to actually get an idea. And the filters as well. I think because we installed Sonic there, there we are, Sonic the Hedgehog Mega Drive. We'll load the game. Okay, Green Hill Zone 1. Okay, so that's just a standard game. Now I'm going to load up scan lines. So you hit the home button, and it's straightforward. Scan lines on, scan lines off. Okay. Now I personally think the scan lines are a bit too much on this. I don't particularly bother with them anyway. I don't remember my CRT being as bad as these scan lines are making it out to be. But yeah, so that's the scan lines. What I'll do is kill this little bug, and then we'll hit the home button again. Scan lines off. The first filter, 2XL. So this seems to upscale slightly. Rounds it off a bit. There you are. That's quite a bit of a difference there. So if you see, that's with the first filter on. No filter. You particularly see it around the trees, around Sonic himself. And basically what that's really useful for is your Game Boy games, your Sega Game Gear games. And if you just wanted to do it anyway. So what we'll do is we'll go through a couple of those. So that was 2XL, which does round it off a lot. Then Super 2X. There you are. Okay. And again, Super Eagle. Yet again. That's just a little bit too polished for my tastes. And what have we got next? We have Scale 2 times. I'm actually not sure what Scale 2 times does. imagine it upscales. Yes, but yeah. Okay, so that shows you. What I'm going to do actually, we'll go back to the main menu. Again, home button, it's all straightforward. We'll try this with a different game. Game Gear Streets of Rage, that'll be good. Yeah, we'll show it on a beat 'em up. Okay, yeah, there you are. Very blurry, very pixelated, as you would expect. Okay, and then let's add 2x sal filter. Yeah, okay, slightly blurry, but it has rounded off those edges. You know, that looks good. It does look good. And again, super 2x sal. Yeah, I'm not seeing much of a difference there. It's probably my untrained eye. That's okay. Super Eagle. Yeah, okay, yeah. It's a bit more rendered there. Can't remember. That's the problem with using the Retrofreak console controller for handhelds, is I can't remember what I've got things mapped to. But that's okay. I'm one of those people that loves beat 'em ups, but he's absolutely awful at them. Streets of Rage 2 though, brilliant game. That was a great game. Let's do the next one, scale 2x. Okay, so let's see. Okay, yeah. I'm just going to show you the difference between scale 2x and Super Eagle. So that was Super Eagle, so it's quite kind of blurred, but it has rounded off the edges nicely. And if we go to scale 2x, yeah, okay. Yeah, so you can mess around with this to your heart's content to see what's best, especially when you're playing with, and there, that's kind of gone back to slightly pixelated again. What is HQ2X? Let's have a look. Okay, it's pretty decent. So that's with no filter on the, yeah. So the filters are extremely handy. So I'm now going to go back out. We'll go back to the main menu again. Oh, I must have hit a wrong button. There we go. Adding your games to the SD card is so straightforward, and then you get this whole library of games. I don't now need to plug my game into this. I can just search for it on here. Unfortunately, I haven't got any PC Engine games. Something I hope to rectify in the future. But yeah, particularly, I mean, handhelds as well. The Sega Game Gear in particular, for me, I've burned through a couple of them with the capacitors going and things like that. And as much as I don't play it much, I'd like to have it preserved. The idea that I can come on here and have a quick playthrough, one of my favourite games from the Game Gear, or even just for the sake of preserving my Mega Drive collection or my NES collection. It's just amazing. So yeah, I hope that's given you a good rundown of how the Retrofreak system works. Thank you. Check it out, subscribe and like the video. Thank you very much for watching.